The loud honk of a pickup truck echoed through the quiet backroads one chilly October night. In the sleepy farming town of Fairview, Illinois, teenagers didn't have much to entertain themselves with after the Friday night football game. "Step on it, Tyler. Mia and Eric are already way ahead of us," Lauren said sharply to her boyfriend, Tyler, who was slouched in the driver's seat with Kenny Chesney blaring on the radio. Wisps of fog stretched across the cornfields on either side of the road, blanketing the stalks in a misty, eerie haze. Tyler let out a groan and glanced at her. "You expect me to pull this off after scoring the game-winning touchdown? I'm running on fumes here. I don't care about their stupid game of chicken." He gave a tired sigh, which only earned an eye roll from Lauren as she turned to look out the open window. The cool autumn air whipped her hair across her face, carrying the scent of freshly tilled soil. Up ahead, the headlights from Eric's truck suddenly stopped moving. Tyler squinted and muttered, "Looks like they're parked or something." He kept driving, rolling through an empty intersection without slowing down. The only light came from the full moon above and the twin beams from the trucks cutting through the thick darkness. "What are they up to now?" Lauren muttered. Frustrated, she unbuckled her seatbelt and stepped out of the truck, ignoring Tyler's protests. Eric and Mia were already out of their vehicle, pointing toward an old, weathered shed at the edge of a cornfield near the woods. "Lauren, get back in the truck," Tyler called out through the window. "I'm not messing around. We're gonna miss the movie if you keep this up." Lauren shoved her hands into her sweatshirt pocket and glared back at him. "Would you stop being such a wimp? Recognize that place?" Mia asked when Lauren and Tyler joined them by the truck. "Please tell me this isn't the shed you two snuck into after prom," Tyler teased with a smirk. "No, idiot," Mia snapped. "Don't you realize what road we're on?" Tyler shrugged. "Should I?" "This is Forhease Road," Mia said, her tone dropping into something ominous. "People say this road's cursed." "Oh, come on," Tyler scoffed. "What's next? Ghost stories?" "It's not just some ghost story," Mia insisted, lowering her voice as if the night itself might overhear. "Back in the 70s, something happened near that shed. Haven't you heard about it?" "I must have been too busy not caring," Eric joked, earning a chuckle from Tyler. Mia ignored them, her expression deadly serious. "They say it all started with the red shed and a kid named Darren. It was 1972, the night Fairview High won the championship. Some guy from the losing team, Darren Hall or something, got lost driving home. He was speeding down this road, didn't realize it was a dead end, and ran into a deer. Only, this wasn't a normal crash. They say he changed. Became something else. A mix of man and deer. People call him the Deerman now." Lauren shivered and glanced at the shadows surrounding them. "You're making that up." "I'm not," Mia said. "My grandpa was sheriff back then. Darren Hall disappeared that night. They never found him." "Okay, that's freaky," Lauren said, her eyes wide with excitement. She grabbed Tyler's arm. "We have to check out the shed. Let's see if there's anything to the story." Tyler yanked his arm away. "No way. You're not dragging me into this nonsense." Eric walked over to his truck and pulled a few flashlights out of the toolbox. "Suit yourself. You can hang back with the trucks and enjoy the view." As if on cue, a loud squawk made them all jump. A flock of crows burst from the tree line, their wings slicing through the air as they perched along the tops of the corn stalks, staring down at the group like an audience. Tyler hesitated, glancing at the dark woods. Finally, he sighed. "Fine, let's just get this over with. Creepy birds or no, I'm not staying out here alone." Armed with flashlights, the group stepped into the damp grass, their shoes soaking in the evening dew. The shed creaked in the wind, its old boards groaning as if alive. "Open it," Lauren whispered, nudging Eric. "You're the tough guy." Eric smirked. "Yo, Deerman. You home? He called, giving the door a solid kick. It flew open, revealing a rundown room overgrown with weeds. Nothing here. Let's head back, Tyler said quickly, spinning on his heel. Wait, Lauren hissed, squeezing his hand. Her voice wavered as her eyes locked on something in the shadows. Who is that? Hey, man, Mia called out, her voice trembling. Are you lost? A figure materialized between the trucks, its silhouette barely distinguishable in the headlights. Slowly, the light revealed something that didn't belong in this world, a monstrous fusion of man and deer, like a vision straight out of a nightmare. It stood upright on spindly, sinewy legs wrapped in coarse, dark fur. A massive rack of gnarled antlers jutted from its head, reaching impossibly high. Its eyes, empty, hollow, and disturbingly still, seemed to lock onto us, emotionless but calculating, as though weighing its next move. Who are you? Lauren shouted, her voice cracking with panic. Nobody moved. We were frozen, rooted to the ground as fear rippled through the group. The creature cocked its head, its gaze slicing through the air like a blade. It moved closer, each step deliberate and unnervingly quiet, its body language that of a predator who knew there was no need to rush. Then, without warning, Tyler's voice broke through the suffocating silence. Run, he screamed, his tone desperate. Chaos erupted. Half of us bolted straight into the cornfield, while the rest fled toward the dark expanse of Forhease Woods, our flashlights bouncing wildly as the creature began its pursuit. Present day. Touchdown, Fairview High, the announcer's gravelly voice echoed through the bleachers. Cheerleaders lined the sidelines, shaking maroon and white pom-poms with practiced energy. Another late October home game was in full swing, and the stands buzzed with fans bundled in flannels and Carhartt jackets, cheering through the crisp autumn air. Maddie sat beside her best friend, Rachel, watching her boyfriend, Noah, celebrate with his teammates on the field. She crossed her arms, pretending the cold wasn't getting to her, but the breeze cut right through her thin jacket. I told Noah if they won tonight, he'd be winning big later, Maddie whispered with a sly grin. Rachel gave her a knowing look. You mean? Not the back seat of his Ford, if that's what you're thinking, Maddie replied quickly, rolling her eyes. I've always imagined it under the stars, somewhere special, surrounded by nature. It's gotta feel connected, you know. Rachel smirked. Maddie, I know you're all into the whole nature girl aesthetic, but that's edging into cringe territory. Have you been binging those witchcore TikToks again? Before Maddie could respond, the announcer's voice boomed once more, and that's a win for Fairview. The cheerleaders erupted into a frenzy, their pom-poms shaking like a hive of excited bees. After the game, Maddie waited outside the boys' locker room, touching up her deep red lipstick and adjusting her plaid skirt. When Noah finally appeared, she greeted him with an enthusiastic hug. About time. What took so long, she teased. Sorry, babe. I smelled like a locker room, he said with a grin, throwing an arm over her shoulder. You got any of that sage deodorant or whatever you make? My axe is tapped out. Not on me, she replied, sighing as they walked toward the parking lot. She leaned in for a kiss, which he returned before glancing around to make sure none of his teammates were watching. That's a lot of lipstick for one kiss, he teased, brushing her hair back playfully. Big night, Maddie said, her lips curving into a mischievous smile. Yeah, it was. Did you see that pass to Jacob? If he'd missed it, I swear I'd have benched him myself. Maddie tilted her head, trying to steer the conversation back to her plans. Noah, don't you remember what I said would happen if you won? Before he could answer, a passing car slowed, and one of his teammates shouted, Yo, Noah, you coming? We're grabbing wings. He hesitated. The guys want to celebrate. I'll text you tomorrow, okay? Wait, Maddie said, stopping him in his tracks. You're just gonna leave? I mean, yeah. I'm starving. Maddie leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. I thought tonight was going to be our night. His eyes widened slightly, and he glanced at his friends before waving them off. They laughed as they drove away, glancing back at Maddie standing there in her combat boots. She crossed her arms, her brow furrowing. What's their problem? They're just messing around, he said, avoiding her gaze. Noah, they've been like this ever since we started dating. What is it? Jocks can't date goth girls. This isn't a John Hughes movie. Forget about them, he said, taking her hand and kissing it lightly. Let's focus on us. Where do you want to go? The two climbed into his truck and drove aimlessly along the quiet country roads. The radio played Billie Eilish at a low volume, and the only sounds were the hum of the engine and the occasional rattle of loose gravel. Noah kept his hands firmly on the wheel, saying little, while Maddie glanced at him, wondering if tonight would really be what she'd imagined. You've been quiet, she finally said. There's not much to say. Every spot I've suggested, you've turned down, he replied, sounding annoyed. I just want it to be somewhere private. My parents would kill me if they found out. Remember what happened to Casey? Yeah. Casey and Brandon in the barn. That was stupid, he muttered. I could have been halfway through my wings by now. Pull up there, Maddie said suddenly, pointing down a narrow road. It's a dead end. If anyone comes, we'll see their lights first. Noah sighed but followed her directions, steering down the deserted path. Cornfields disappeared as the road ended, leaving only a dilapidated red shed standing at the edge of the woods. Maddie's eyes widened. Wait. I know this place. This is Forhease Road. Should I know what that means? Noah asked, adjusting his cap. My grandpa used to hunt here years ago, Maddie explained. He'd take a mattress and stay for days, but one day he stopped coming out here and never said why. Just packed up and swore he wouldn't go back. Yeah, well, maybe he finally got bored. Noah laughed nervously. And now you want us to go into the woods? For this? It's not just about hooking up, Noah. It's about something meaningful. I thought this would be perfect, under the stars, surrounded by nature. You're serious? As serious as I've ever been, she said, stepping out of the truck and motioning toward the woods. Noah exhaled sharply, shaking his head. No one's ever going to believe this, he muttered under his breath. Fine, lead the way to the deer stand. The two of them stepped cautiously through the trees, their footsteps crunching over brittle twigs and dried leaves. The deeper they moved into the woods, the quieter it became. The hum of crickets filled the void, but even their sound seemed distant and uncertain. The air grew thick with the earthy smell of decaying foliage, the kind that clung to your senses and wouldn't let go. Look! Maddie's urgent whisper cut through the silence, making Noah flinch. There's the ladder. He scanned the shadows nervously, his eyes darting from one patch of darkness to another as if something might leap out at any moment. After a hesitant pause, he followed her up the ladder, each rung groaning under his weight. Halfway up, his car keys slipped from his pocket, tumbling to the ground below with a faint metallic clink. Great, he muttered with a forced laugh. Can't exactly leave those behind. Give them to me, Maddie offered, slipping the keys into her crocheted bag before continuing up. Once at the top, she shrugged off her jacket, then her shirt, seemingly unfazed by the cold air wrapping around them. Noah's breath quickened as he lay beside her on the narrow platform, their skin pressed together. The woods felt impossibly still, the silence so dense it was almost suffocating. It was as if the forest itself were holding its breath, watching. Noah, Maddie whispered, her voice breaking through the tension. What now? He groaned, sounding more annoyed than curious. Do you love me? Noah chuckled, a loud, almost dismissive sound that made her stomach tighten. Love you? Come on, Maddie, you're kidding, right? Her face fell. What's so funny? I just figured you already knew about this whole thing. I thought you were in on it, he said, smirking like it was some big joke. In on what? Maddie's voice wavered as she tried to keep her composure. You and me, Noah said casually. The bet the guys made. When you said yes to going out with me so fast, I assumed you'd heard about it and wanted to play along. Her brow furrowed. What bet? Oh, come on, he scoffed. Don't act like you don't know. The team bet I couldn't hook up with the school goth before Halloween. I mean, I thought you were cool with it. You're all about being different or whatever. Guess I figured you'd appreciate the attention from a football player. He leaned in to kiss her neck, but she shoved him away so hard he nearly lost his balance. How could you? Before either of them could say another word, a sharp crack echoed through the woods, like a tree branch snapping clean in two. Maddie froze. Then came the unmistakable scrape of something heavy dragging across the forest floor. Noah leaned over the edge of the stand, squinting into the darkness. Probably just a... His words caught in his throat as the shadowy figure of a deer appeared below. For a moment, it looked like a regular animal. But then it reared up, placing clawed hands on the ladder, its antlers scraping against the rungs. As it climbed higher, its grotesque face emerged, a horrifying mix of man and deer, its yellow eyes glowing with a sickening, predatory hunger. Maddie and Noah screamed as the Deerman reached the top, its gnarled hand latching onto Noah's leg. Snarling teeth glinted in the moonlight, and razor-sharp nails tore into his flesh. Noah's terrified cries echoed through the woods as the creature began dragging him, inch by inch, toward its gnashing jaws. Help! Maddie, help me! Noah's screams ripped through the darkness, but she couldn't move. Her heart pounded as warm droplets spattered her face, blood. Snapping out of her shock, Maddie clutched her bag and scrambled toward the edge of the platform. Grabbing hold of a nearby branch, she swung down, her body shaking as she climbed from one limb to the next. Pain exploded in her ankles as she hit the ground hard, but she forced herself to her feet, ignoring the ache. She ran blindly through the woods, Noah's screams fading into the distance. Branches tore at her skin, the cool night air burning her lungs as she pushed forward, desperate to reach safety. When she finally broke through the tree line, she stumbled toward the car, fumbling with the keys. Her hands trembled as she unlocked the door, throwing herself inside and slamming it shut. She twisted the key in the ignition, the engine roaring to life as she floored the gas pedal. The car bounced over the ditch as she veered back onto the road, but her escape was cut short when the headlights illuminated the figure standing in her path. The Deerman. Blood dripped from its mouth, its glowing yellow eyes fixed on her. It licked its lips slowly, savoring the moment. Maddie's breath hitched, but her grip tightened on the wheel. Without thinking, she floored it, the car hurtling forward. The impact rocked her as she hit the creature, but she didn't look back. She sped down the deserted road, tears streaming down her face as the forest disappeared in the rearview mirror. She didn't stop until she was miles away, the eerie glow of the moonlight guiding her as she disappeared into the night, vowing never to return.